Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Second Take Movies. I'm your host, Preston Jenkinson. With me today, as my very special guest, is Will Huff. Will, how we doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, Preston. Glad to be here.
And today we're discussing Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Two Jedi escape blockade to find allies and come across a young boy who may bring balance to the Force, but the long, dormant Sith resurface to claim their original glory.
Well said.
So, some of this podcast is going to be someone who loves the particular movie and someone who does not like that movie. And sometimes I guess the basic gist of this show is defending something everyone has said is bad. And sometimes
That's right.
me and a guest are not going to agree on something.
That's right. Yeah.
Will is an example of that. He loves these movies.
I really do love the Star Wars saga. I like episodes 1 through 6. Don't particularly care for these new movies that have recently come out, but you know, I grew up with the prequels. Those were really just so popular with kids my age growing up.
I think I was 9 when the Phantom Menace came out.
Yeah.
I remember my mom taking me to go see it.
Dude, that's awesome.
And
you saw it in the theater?
Yeah.
Wow.
So when I was 9, I was like, "Oh, Star Wars."
You know, even if you don't like the prequels, getting to see them in the theater, that opening scene with the text that comes up. What's that called? The opening crawl.
Opening crawl.
Oh, chills. I love it. It's so good.
Speaking of which, the first note that I have that I wrote down when I was watching these movies, Ian McGregor.
Yes.
Like, just one of the best moments or just one of the best casting moments in movie history.
Oh my gosh. I mean, however you feel about these prequels, perfect casting, incredible acting. He honored, I wish his name.
Guinness. I think it's Alec.
Yeah, something.
There's whoever's listening to this and knows Star Wars is screaming at us right now.
Yeah, seriously. He really modeled his acting off of. He really studied and paid attention to the original trilogy, and he did a phenomenal job. Yeah, brought a lot of life to the character. I think there's Obi-Wan is, at this point, such a symbolic figure in the mind of everyone, and so the humanity that he brings to the character, I think, is just exceptional.
I was correct. It was Alec Guinness, Sir Alec Guinness.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Sir Alec Guinness. Yeah. Yes, he's correctly addressed.
And also, Liam Neeson is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Incredible.
Yeah.
You know, I think he represents, honestly, the best of the Jedi Order. Yeah. He kind of represents the epitome of what it was to be a Jedi Knight.
But he also seems like one of the more reckless.
Yes.
Because he's so willing to take on a second Padawan.
In fact, let me take back what I just said. I think he represents what a Jedi should be. Yeah. And you see his character contrasted with every other Jedi in the rest of the prequels. Those that follow the code to a T, and even just the path that leads them on. Yeah. But I'm sure we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But I'm excited to kind of unpack that with you, Preston.
Now we're getting into the critical areas, because that was the only 2 good notes I think I took.
Oh, we didn't. Well, okay. Well, wait. One more thing.
Okay.
John Williams.
Of course.
Fantastic.
he is gold. Anything he touches.
I don't know how people feel about this, but I would argue even that his music in the prequels surpasses his music in the original trilogy. Okay, one more caveat. Let me just say.
Okay.
As people listen to this, they might think that I am... The original trilogy is better. Hands down.
Oh, yeah. There's no question.
No denying that. But I think one of the redeeming factors of the prequels is it complements the original trilogy in, I think, a very, very good way. I think it helps it. I think it helps the story and adds some depth. But, I mean, in John Williams, just phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. I was listening to the soundtrack earlier today, Preston.
I know it was on when I came in.
That's good.
All right, so it opens up 2 mysterious hooded figures on this ship.
Yes.
And apparently there's something about a trade blockade. George Lucas said these were for kids, and he just crams it full of politics, and it's like...
That was a little weird.
Yeah,
I will admit. It kind of...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the very first critical note I have is that the Viceroy accent. Like, George, what are we doing? Oh, that was no good. I mean, I'm scared to do the accent because I don't,
You're so good at it, though.
I know, but
I think if it's an imitation, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, yes,
yes, this is a franchise about space wizards with laser swords that move things with their mind.
Yes. Yeah.
And you put a funny voice in there for the kids. I get it.
Now, he does that in the original trilogy as well.
Yeah.
The General Akbar. Admiral Akbar. Excuse me.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
Okay, granted, I will say, when he went back and did his graphics updates to the trilogy, he had added humor for some reason, and it's not really that funny.
No.
I mean the visual humor.
There's like I think it's, I know we're kind of jumping into the original trilogy, but
it's hard not to.
He added a shot of like this giant elephant thing just walking into frame, completely blocking out a shot.
So weird.
That's the one thing that sticks out to me every time I rewatch those movies.
Oh yeah,
because that's the only versions you can find out there.
Or in movie 6, the singing scene, the number.
Yeah.
In the original, movie, it was not this big comedic, and then he turns it into this cartoon.
Yeah.
So no, I see that point. I think that's true with the Viceroy. They just, well, let me get into Jar Jar Binks, right?
Oh,
I feel like enough has been said about Jar Jar, but we have to.
I am kind of tempted to skip that just because all that's been said. But I would encourage everyone who's listening to this to go and watch a video. It's from 8 years ago, called "What If the Prequels Were Good?" And it starts, obviously it starts with the Phantom Menace, and it's basically they're redoing it, and that's one of the first.
I've seen these, I think.
I sent you the video yesterday. Credit to Bela Franklin for showing it to me.
Hey, Bela.
He's probably not listening. But that's the first thing they take out is Jar Jar.
Yeah.
Completely get rid of him.
Well, had you heard this, Preston? I should probably ask that after I tell you, but originally, and there's a lot of support for this. Originally, Lucas was planning on Jar Jar being, excuse me, a Sith Lord. Have you heard this?
I think I have.
And it was really set up for that he was just playing dumb.
Well, he
in
was
the first movie.
He was doing a great job at it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's where it backfired, but he was going to be...
I think, everyone hated him so much.
But, we were going to see his rise to the ranks with Palpatine. He was going to...
Yeah, well, he eventually is the one that puts up the vote, which...
Yes.
As this is kind of skipping a little sneak preview for the third movie. Padme,
that's right.
gives up her voting power to Jar Jar.
It makes no sense.
Like,
absolutely no sense.
You don't have anybody in your crew, like your security guy, like.
Well, and I guess he's of Naboo,
mm-hmm.
So he's technically a citizen of her planet that she's representing.
Yeah.
But, right, it's...
Just throw a rock at anybody on Naboo. That would have been better.
Yeah. Well, actually, is he a citizen?
Because
he's a citizen.
I mean, it's the planet of Naboo.
Okay, so that's how it works.
And the Gungan city was in the water.
This is a rabbit trail, but like in Star Wars, are there planets that have split kind of communities or split countries? Or is it really exclusively planets in Star Wars?
There's planets, there's the moon, the moon of Endor.
Sure, yeah. But really, it's just exclusively, if you're on this planet, you're part of this. Interesting.
You're a citizen of Naboo, technically.
Very interesting.
Even though you live in the Gungan city.
Yeah.
And your head guy goes... I was waiting to do that.
Honestly, Preston, I would listen to a podcast of you just doing impressions.
Like, watch it at 32 years old, watching Boss Nass.
That's right.
Like, we could have eliminated all of them. Anyway.
Yeah.
So they meet the Jar Jar. They fight through the Viceroy ship. They stow away, go down to the planet. Because they're invading Naboo at this point with all those... Why they make these battle droids that are just, basically toothpicks that you can snap.
Yeah.
And then they invade Naboo and they get some help from the Gungans. They end up in Naboo City. Yes. Oh, yes, because she's been kidnapped at this point.
Yes, and so they rescue her. That because they're escaping with an understanding of, okay, this invasion is about to happen.
Yeah.
They know that.
Yeah.
But that the people of Naboo do not. Yeah. It's a surprise attack.
Yeah. Another note I had is everything is shiny.
Yeah. A little bit of that lens flare.
That first C-3PO droid or protocol droid or whatever you want to call her.
Yeah.
She's just shiny.
Yes.
And I'm used to, I guess the old man in me was like, I'm used to Star Wars looking lived in.
Yeah.
It's this beat up, futuristic, 70s futuristic. Because what it kind of does is visually it makes the prequels look. They were using advanced filmmaking at the time, but they look more advanced than what's happening 20 years later.
Yes, absolutely.
That was his big mistake with all the blue screens and.
Oh yeah, I think that's a trap that a lot of filmmakers fall into these days. There's few that still stick with traditional visual effects. Mm-hmm. There's a term for that.
And that's my favorite thing about the new trilogy.
Yeah.
Is the amount of practical stuff they use with puppets.
It looks good.
Yeah,
I will admit that.
Yeah.
I like the puppets.
The puppets and because like the banthas in the original trilogy were just elephants with stuff thrown on them.
Oh, that's so cool.
They found elephants in, I think they were in the Gobi Desert.
That's so cool.
I can't remember where they shot that. They were in a desert somewhere.
I think it was in Gobi.
And they just threw like a costume on an elephant.
Oh, man.
And put some masks on the sand people.
No, I love practical effects, and I think it grounds it and it keeps a film from aging.
Uh-huh.
Because now we look 20 years back at these prequels, and the visual effects are a little.
And
A little
there's
aged.
another very good YouTube channel that I love to watch, Corridor Crew.
Okay.
They're the visual effects artists react that you've probably seen the thumbnails where it's like a yellow background and they just react to visual effects in different movies because they're
that's cool.
visual
Yeah.
professionals.
And they're very critical of it. Yeah.
And their thing is always CGI shouldn't be the first answer. It should complement and improve on what's there.
That's right.
You shoot as much practically as you can.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's why Baby Yoda in The Mandalorian is a $10 million puppet.
That's right. That's right. Well, wait, actually $10 million?
It cost $10 million to make that puppet.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Like the one that moves
insane.
around. And
I mean, it looks incredible.
When you see it moving in his arms, that's the puppet.
Yeah.
And Pedro Pascal is holding a $10 million puppet in his hands.
Oh, my.
And it's being operated by somebody off screen.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That show is so good.
But what's the conflict? Why are these guys blockading Naboo? Who are these Trade Federation? What are these separatists? Because that's thrown around in these movies. Separatists and the Republic.
Yes. You know, it's in the dialogue at the beginning of the movie. I don't exactly remember, but they're definitely maybe they're capitalistic, very much. You know, about the money. How can we make the most? How can we do what's best for our crew, our people?
But I mean, they're basically being goaded on by what we don't know yet.
Yes, they're being used
by the future Emperor Darth Sidious, but we don't quite know.
I have no idea.
I mean, if only you could look up the actor playing the Emperor is the same one that played him in Return of the Jedi and kind of figure it out. I mean, honestly, when I was first watching these movies, I had no clue. Like they did a pretty good job with that because he changes his voice enough.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, who is it? Who's this guy? Oh, there's this.
People didn't know.
There's this. Well, I think most people knew. Yeah. Like people that grew up with the original trilogy recognized him. But I was like an idiot teenager at this point, or in middle school at this point when by the time the second one came out, and Sheev Palpatine was there. I never put it together until the third one. I was like,
well, they don't.
Oh, that was him.
Yeah, no. They seem like two different people. Different actors.
I mean, he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, and I mean, he's and you know, depicting an old man in the original trilogy, so you would also not expect him to appear so young in the prequels, and that's something that throws people off too. To give him credit for other people's bad decision when he came back for that third movie in the new trilogy, he's doing Palpatine. Yeah, he's doing the Emperor. He did an incredible job. I have to give him that.
He does a great job with that character, just with crappy dialogue and story. And now, me and Will probably cover those movies at some point.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think again, this is kind of a thing we'll have to touch on when we get to episode 2 and 3. Yeah. But you know, the question is, did that happen to Hayden Christensen? Or is that Hayden Christensen? You know,
is what Hayden?
This is a good script with bad directing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen him in other stuff, and I'm like, wow, he can.
He's a great actor. I think so too.
George was just on the set, like, well, there's gonna be this going on in the background, so you just do this, you know. Oh, that was great. Oh, now we're gonna we're gonna have stuff flying by in the background. Is what's gonna happen. Everything's blue right now, but it's gonna be flying by. This is what's gonna be flying by. He probably spent more time on what was flying by in the background than he did actually directing actors in this movie.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and poor Hayden, I mean, I think the nerves you must have.
Well, before we even get to Hayden, friggin' Jake Lloyd.
The kid.
The kid. Like, this movie ruined his life.
I know.
Like, I Googled him the other day just because we were doing this, and he's been in rehab twice for alcoholism. And he's had several DUIs, and I think he dropped out of college, and this movie made him want to quit acting because he had been in 2 or 3 things before this. And I think he's my age, actually. But yeah, he said that it made him want to quit acting because he got picked on so much at school. but we haven't really gotten to him yet. But
I mean,
the lightsaber battles. That is one thing. These movies improve with those each time, I think.
The lightsaber battles in the prequels are incredible. Especially that final battle with Darth Maul.
Oh my... wow. We'll get to that in a minute, because that deserves its own section of this.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
I was told by Obi-Wan in episode 4 that the Force was mystical. The Force is an energy field. It penetrates us, surrounds us, and binds the galaxy together. So it was this mythical force, literal force, that just, lived in people and kept the universe going. But here...
it's kind of like this science thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by this point in the movie, we've run off of the planet, and the ship is broken down, just to catch people up with what's going on in the movie. Ship is broken down. We've landed on Tatooine yet again.
Yeah.
Like we like to go back to in all of Star Wars media.
Every Star Wars movie.
Put them in a desert. I don't know. And
is it in 5 and 6? No, it's in 6.
It's in 6.
It's not in 5, is it?
No.
So 5 is the only Star Wars movie that Tatooine is not in.
Yeah, because even the Mandalorian. Well, yeah, the Mandalorian goes back.
To Tatooine.
They didn't go to it in Rogue One.
Rogue One didn't go to it. Han Solo, they go to Tatooine.
No.
Don't they?
I mean, at the end, they reference oh, I know a guy on Tatooine who's got a job for us.
Oh, it's a different planet. Okay, yeah. And then The Last Jedi, they're not.
No, didn't go to Tatooine.
So there's
Rise of Skywalker. They did. Rey goes back to a house that she has no reference for.
I think that from here on out, every time we say Rise of Skywalker, you should bleep it. Because on this podcast, we do our best here to give movies a second chance.
Yeah.
To really try and redeem these films, but I think that is a curse word on this podcast.
Redemption for that movie.
Absolutely not. And you're welcome to. I mean, if you have a different opinion, you can express that in the comments. But
I just want to put this out there. Anyone listening to this, because we're probably going to cover someone's favorite movie.
Oh yeah.
And if it's good, I'm glad that you like this.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you like and love to watch whatever movie we're going to talk about.
Sure.
You can have that opinion.
Sure. It's
okay.
Yeah.
It's not a personal attack on you.
And that's well said. It's not a personal attack. It's fun. I think that the more brutal we are, the funner it will be.
Yeah, it's because it's funny to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Just being honest here.
Yeah. All right. So, Tatooine. We've landed. We need to go find a part.
Yeah.
So, Qui-Gon decides to put on a poncho and decides to bring Jar Jar Binks to go and help find a part in the desert. And then the security guy makes him take what eventually ends up being the actual Queen Amidala.
Yes.
Which is Padme, which I guess that means Keira Knightley's in the makeup at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well,
and by the way, Keira Knightley, Natalie Portman, look nothing alike.
I think they kind of do.
And maybe that's just me knowing how famous both of them are now. So when you go back and watch that movie, it's like, oh, that's Keira Knightley.
I think if you've seen them in enough films, you kind of do tell the difference if you've seen them in enough movies. But I remember being a kid and thinking they looked identical.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier to disguise them when they're in that geisha makeup kind of thing.
Yeah, that's right.
And what is this voice in a committee? I'm not going to voice this in committee. It's just this palindrome, this monotone voice from Queen Amidala. Like, is this required for royalty?
Before we move on,
yeah,
let me argue in favor for something.
Go for it. That's what this whole thing is about.
All right. I see characterization happening with Qui-Gon in his really advocating for Jar Jar, his belief in Jar Jar.
Uh-huh.
This is a person that no one sees anything in, and he is, he's believing there's something there. He's believing Jar Jar is someone who can help.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe that was Lucas's intention. I don't know. Whether it was or not, I think the art could be interpreted that way. I think that you could see that being an important character element, especially in, what he does with Anakin. He comes back with Anakin to a council, and even his Padawan has his doubts, but the council, of course, is just in total disagreement with Qui-Gon. He's too old. They quote unquote sense fear. This is another Jar Jar, someone who should not be here, and Qui-Gon sees something in him. Now,
so it's better to abduct tiny children and train them up from then.
I know it's he saves them from slavery. Yeah, he saves Jar Jar
but
too.
We can't save the mom.
No, can't save the mom.
And hey, Queen Amidala, I'm sure you've got the cash. Like, maybe
you could literally buy his.
Good time to reveal yourself and be like, I want to save this boy's mother too.
Would Qui-Gon have said, hey, Amidala, let's not pay for Anakin. He needs to earn his freedom.
Probably. And Qui-Gon probably is kind of like Yoda does later on, sees his attachment to his mom as what's going to be his weakness. We, with the benefit of being the audience and knowing what's going on and what's going to happen, I would say Anakin knowing that his mother is safe, because apparently it was Palpatine that put those dreams in his head later on, as we'll discuss when we talk about the third episode.
Wow.
Would have been a leg up on him not turning to the dark side.
That's right.
Because he kept seeing, like, oh, my wife's going to die in birth, and I'm seeing my mom die. And I think he sees that in the second movies when he starts seeing that.
What I see is a theme in the prequels, and it's kind of starting to develop here.
Yeah.
The major conflict in the prequels is within Anakin, but it's also between Anakin and the dark side, and also the Jedi Council. And I say Jedi Council, I don't say light side. Maybe we could say light side.
I think the Council at this point is supposed to be that the Jedi have existed for so long, so now they're really high up on the mountain.
Yes.
They're in their little tower up there. Yeah. They've kind of become like the ultimate peacekeepers, and I'll give these movies credit. It sets up an excuse as to why they didn't freaking know there was a Sith user out there.
Well, and they
got lazy.
Here's what it is. So they all follow kind of this stoic philosophy that is, we're going to remove ourselves from our emotions, any attachments, anger, but even love. Mm-hmm. They're all seen as weakness. Yeah. It's this removed feeling, and I think that's what Anakin really has to grapple with throughout the prequels. Is how does he understand? How does he suppress this love that he feels for his mother, for Padme, for Obi-Wan? How I think he concludes it's not possible, or even that it's unjust. Yeah, that it's not right. Yeah, I think we can empathize with Anakin in that. But I don't want to I want to talk about that throughout. Yeah. I think there's something there.
That's like a episode 2.
Oh, yeah.
Attack of the Clones conversation. Which...
Yeah, we really need that. I guess what you could start to see in Phantom Menace is the heart of Anakin. Oh, what's that scene with the kids? Oh, have you seen this? There's a deleted scene. I don't know if Anakin is being bullied or someone else is being bullied.
I haven't seen this, no.
There's a deleted scene, the kids, and I can't remember if they're picking on Anakin or if they're picking on a friend of his. I wish that had been left
on Tatooine.
Yeah,
I think I have seen this. They're picking on Greedo.
That's right.
It's trying to set up Greedo for.
But
like you're gonna get if you keep doing that, you're gonna end up getting shot, Greedo, or something like that.
Yes. Well, I think Anakin helps him, right?
Yeah.
In the deleted scene.
Yeah.
That's shown in other ways in the first movie. I think you have Anakin. He's told to. Well, I might be jumping ahead. I was going to talk about the ending scene,
but we're at this point. Okay, we've got our party going into town. Qui-Gon has disguised himself with a poncho again. It's just this what stuck out to me. I mean, you're obviously a Jedi. You look like a Jedi, dude. So we go in and we enter this shop, and there's this precocious little 10-year-old running around.
Yeah.
Where no, he tells him to come on in. Watto is his name.
That's right.
The flying anteater.
Can you do an impression of him?
Oh, the boy's good.
Why are you so good at these things?
I don't know. Yeah. No, they won't.
Yeah, that is. Imagine working for that guy. He's
Yeah.
your boss.
Well, I
And
mean,
you're a slave master. I mean,
he's not really working. He's.
gee whiz, like.
But yeah, Anakin comes in. Apparently, Amidala falls in love with a 9-year-old at this point, a 16-year-old.
So is she actually 6? I thought she was 15. Is she 16?
I think Natalie Portman herself was like 18 or 19 at the time.
Yeah. She's supposed to be 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And Anakin's 9 years old. Is what it's supposed to be.
Still gross. I mean, they're only 6 years apart. I mean, it's gross at.
It's uncomfortable, I suppose, to see.
Yeah.
But you know.
But by the time we get to 10 years later, he's 19 and she's 20 something.
I think maybe the mistake is Padme does not appear to be as old as she is.
And this is the
19-year-old.
second good part of the belated media video is they bring up that Obi-Wan should have been a teenager at this point. And he should have been like, Jar Jar is gone. Get him out. And so Obi-Wan, of course, would accompany Qui-Gon to Mos Eisley. And he would have kind of had eyes for Amidala at this point.
Wow.
And then they said to make Anakin a teenager as well.
Huh.
So when those two first meet and Qui-Gon's like, oh my gosh, this kid is so talented, blah, blah, blah. So Obi-Wan would have been like, Master, what's up? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship would have started off really strained.
Oh, definitely.
And that's why Obi-Wan would have probably been more reluctant. And that would... all of this would evolve into the fight they eventually have. There's a reason that Anakin would be more jealous in that fight scene when he says that you're trying to take her away from me. You know, the princess, the queen is kidnapped. And just going back to that, Naboo has no army. She just has this security force of like 5 dudes.
I suppose so. I think
they must have been this like ultra peaceful society for however long. And
I think so, and I think there's the naivety of the Naboo people.
Yeah.
In that, because I think she got so much pushback.
Yeah.
Right? When she starts to talk about this invasion coming, we need to prepare.
Yeah.
They really talk of, no, we've been at peace with the Trade Federation. There's no way. I think that naivety, perhaps you see that even mirrored in the Jedi Council throughout the prequels. I think there's a lot of that in the prequels. You kind of see things happen on a small scale, and then again on a larger scale throughout.
Okay.
You see a lot of things mirrored with the Jedi Council, but at least that'd be my thought.
So they meet. Qui-Gon tries to buy the parts with Republic credits, and he tries to do the Jedi mind trick of credits will do fine. And Watto's just continuously, no, they won't.
It doesn't work on him.
No, he's immune to. He knows what he's doing, and he's like, "What do you think you're a Jedi waving your hand around?"
Why was that significant? I'm trying to remember.
I guess he's not weak-minded.
Huh. Interesting.
Or he's just so headstrong when he negotiates that.
Is that true of all the Bingsians?
No clue. So they can't get that, so they end up... Does he make the bet with him then? No, because he doesn't know about the pod racer yet.
No.
I guess they just end up leaving because he's got, I got to find a way to... Well, there's a sandstorm coming and they're trying to get back to their ship.
That's right.
It's like, we'll figure out something.
Yeah.
But the sandstorm's coming too quick. Anakin says, come home with me to my place. And
there's the kind heart of Anakin.
Yeah.
Right? He's such a sweet boy.
Yeah.
He cares for his mother very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important for us to see.
Because all we know of that name really is... But when this was in theaters, when it first came out, the only reference we had to Anakin was this monstrous, disfigured-looking guy behind an oxygen mask.
Yes. That's all.
We have seen him as the epitome of evil.
That's right.
the greatest movie villain of all time, in my opinion.
That's right. Yeah, I would say so too.
Just this, because like when he first walks in A New Hope, it's the bad guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no. He's a kind boy. Genuinely cares. Has a good heart.
Yeah.
So the question is, what ruins him in the prequels? Does the Jedi Council play into that? Or is there influence there? How do I say? Because there are restrictions on him.
But I will say, along with that kindness, it is also this real cockiness.
This cockiness, yes, maybe some
real sure of himself.
Some fear.
Because when he tells them about when we find out about pod racing in this movie, which is one of the best scenes. It's very well shot.
It's very well shot.
One of the best looking effect shot in the movie. Like, they spend a lot of time, like, a lot of stuff looks rubbery and shiny and not there. But the shots of the pod racing, great.
It does look very good. And I think that plays to, the fact that he is the best pilot in the galaxy.
Yeah.
And it's important to know that from an early age, he was driving.
I guess Qui-Gon finds out about this, and then he tests his blood. He's testing the kid. He's testing this kid. I guess because he senses something in the kid, but he's just, and his mom has no problem with this
scientific method.
This stranger with a ponytail and a goatee is poking my son and getting his blood and sending it who knows where. But we find out that his midichlorian count is off the chart. And then he has a conversation with Shmi. Is that her name? Shmi Skywalker?
Don't even. Oh, yeah. That's right. Shmi.
He's
something like that.
Who's the father? And there was no father. So we have, not only do we have, okay, so the Force is now midichlorians. It's the science thing. But now, along with that, we have immaculate conception.
Maybe there's a point, or maybe we could interpret it as, okay, this is how to observe the world. This is how to observe how the Force works. Mm-hmm. But there's still the spiritual element.
And apparently in one of the comics that they've recently come out with, it was kind of insinuated that Palpatine created, like, kind of, because I guess he had this planned way out. Oh, and he basically impregnated Shmi Skywalker. I don't know how he found her.
I've heard that too.
I would much rather it be like the Force balancing itself out.
Yes.
The theme of Star Wars is balance, if anything.
Absolutely.
At its base, because there's always been Sith and there's always been Jedi, and there's always a balance. Evil sometimes wins, good sometimes wins. The galaxy or the universe or whatever is impartial. It just needs the balance of those two things of the Force.
Because it's Taoist philosophy. It's this idea of chaos and order.
Because I always interpreted it as this evil was rising over here, so the Force was like, let me put a whole bunch of light side here, and that's how I always thought of it. So I don't know if that comic is canon or not.
I hope not.
The next day we find out about pod racing.
Yeah,
because Anakin is again bragging about his pod racer and that he's the only one that can do it.
Yeah, but
I think it belongs to Watto, and so Liam Neeson gets an idea and says, "I'm gonna gamble on this slave's life."
Right.
And says, if he wins that race, I'll take him with me. Put it up to chance with the chance cube. And they
moves it with the Force.
I can't remember why they were rolling the dice, but I know there was a dice or a die, whatever.
It had something to do with
singular version is
if he would do it or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's Qui-Gon, of course. He can't manipulate Watto in the normal way, so he has to do a different method.
He knew that he would take a bet.
Yeah, that's right.
So we have the race, and wouldn't you know it, a Skywalker in a Star Wars movie wins the race. And so we go back to the house. Anakin's packing. Oh, forgot to mention, Anakin created 3PO.
Yes. Okay. He doesn't recognize him in the original.
Well, I mean, his mind is, they wipe his mind at the end. They have a little throwaway line at the very end of the third movie where like wipe the protocol droid's mind. But my thing about that is R2's right there.
Yes.
They didn't say anything about wiping his mind.
No,
And
I think Archie remembers.
He can communicate with 3PO. So does R2 not have any memory of what just happened?
I think he's not telling 3PO.
He's just not telling. He's just like,
he's just smart. He does that so well, doesn't he? Because he keeps this. Because he's very sassy droid.
Yeah, I like to think he's a little smart ass.
He's gonna keep a secret.
Yeah,
he's so faithful to Anakin.
Yeah,
and to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, but I just hated that. Like, okay, yeah, you got Anthony Daniels in a Star Wars movie, but did it have to be like he could have been one of the robots on Naboo? Anyway, he tells 3PO, "Can't take you. Watch it. Look out for Mom. Help her out around the house."
Yep.
But he finally realizes, oh, I can't take my mom with me? What's the deal?
Yeah.
But then this woman lets her kid.
It's one of those. It's so.
But I guess she wants better. I guess the way to interpret it is she wants better for her son, and she knows she's not getting out anytime soon.
It's like the highest honor in the galaxy, pretty much.
Yeah.
To be a Jedi. And the opportunity for him. You might argue that a loving mother would not have done anything else.
Right.
And
she knows there's no way out for her, and I guess she would rather have her son.
This is his chance to escape, and there won't be another one.
So we take a child and we go to Coruscant.
Yes.
The planet is one huge city.
Yes.
And Anakin's too old? Like how young are these kids when they start training?
At like probably 2 or 4.
When they start walking? I want to know how they identified these kids.
It must be...
Does every newborn get their blood tested for midichlorians?
Potentially? I don't know. Do they ever say?
No.
Yeah.
And it's probably explained in one of those old books before Disney bought everything.
Seriously.
So, we're on Coruscant. He said, no, you can't train him. And Qui-Gon's like, I'm going to train him anyway. And apparently they're okay with that, or they just... It's like, you can do it if you want, I guess, kind of thing. But he's too old. Much fear we sense in you. Fear we sense in you.
And fear does lead to anger.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If anything, anger is an expression of...
But apparently, and also there's this thing of the chosen one. And Qui-Gon is dead set that it is Anakin who's going to bring balance to the Force. Although it could be interpreted that, just like Abraham, God said, it's going to be through you, not necessarily you.
I would argue he is the chosen one, and he brings balance to the Force.
Yeah.
And the thing about that prophecy is there's not necessarily a time constraint on, say, how long that will last.
Yeah.
Because maybe the balance is Vader and Luke.
Yeah.
Or should I say at that point, Anakin and Luke.
Yeah.
Both alive for, 15, 25 minutes, whatever it was, before the Death Star explodes. And there's balance.
Mm-hmm.
And he brings balance to the Force. And I think, too, you could interpret this way as well. The Jedi Council really needed to end. It had become something so far from its roots that it shouldn't be anymore.
Yeah. And
so, potentially, the Force is bringing back the balance that the universe, the galaxy, I should say, really needs to function well, to be as it should be. And so part of his bringing balance is actually taking down a lot of the council. And that's part of my argument. And I would, that's maybe more episode 3, but I kind of let the cat out of the bag right now. I think, at least in the Star Wars world, now I think it's a different worldview. It's a different philosophy.
Yeah.
It's very Eastern. I would not...
I mean, they're basically samurai.
Yeah. I mean, in real life, I would not agree with a lot of the premises or the guiding principles of the story arc, but within the story, part of the work of the Chosen One was to essentially eradicate the Jedi Order.
The Grand Force, whatever that is like, okay, I didn't say anything about an organization of, like, limiting what people can do.
Yes.
I mean, you're just the light side of the Force.
Yeah.
Y'all came up with this lightsabers and you can only do this, and let's snatch up these kids when they're really young and put him into training and let Yoda stand in a room while they float stuff around.
Yeah. It's meant to be this constant conflict.
Yeah.
And at least in the Star Wars universe, it's meant to be, the Force has it so that there's always two sides to the coin. Yeah. And the best place to be is right in the middle. So,
after we leave the Jedi, Qui-Gon decides he's going to train Anakin. For some reason, he takes his new Padawan back into Naboo where there's a battle going on.
Yes.
Maybe leave him at the temple.
Yeah. For real. It's like, this is a boy, no training at all.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's I think the Jedi would see that as like, yeah, he can stay here.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to have him at your... he's 9. You don't have to have him at your side at this moment.
Yeah.
And we'll just fast forward. They get to the planet, blah, blah, blah. We'll fast forward to the end of this movie.
Yes.
He tells him to stay in the cockpit.
Yeah.
And he just... Apparently there's a helmet that's just the right size for a 9-year-old in there. And he flies off and eventually blows up the Trade Federation thing on accident. But Darth Maul... We finally get to him, which throughout this movie we've seen him. He's the Phantom Menace. He's just been in the background. He's maybe said 3 words. Yeah. And he's already become the coolest character in all of Star Wars.
So cool. So cool.
Played by Ray Park.
Well, it goes to even the original trilogy that Star Wars has always been a very visual story. Mm-hmm. You have the light and the dark. You have the blue lightsabers and the red lightsabers. You have... Yeah. Even the colors of the costumes and the way that they dress. Yeah. With of course the original trilogy, the Empire. Yeah. Looks very similar to, say, Nazi Germany. And
even with the uniforms and
the way that Lucas so wisely had people dress. Visually as the dark side, visually as the light. I think they become larger than people. They become symbols. And Darth Maul is like that. Yeah.
He's like basically the devil, or like the...
He does look like a devil.
The imagery of... The typical imagery of what you think of as the devil. Yeah. Like just a red and black dude with horns.
Exactly.
Zadrak, like is that his species? I think that's what the name of the species. Wow. Yeah. They're from Dathomir, I know that.
Yeah, he looks like a demon. Yeah. And I think already there's where Lucas starts his... the cool thing that he does with Palpatine in the prequels. I already want to argue about... There's something I want to say about that. So remind me.
In the next one?
We'll do it in the next episode.
Okay. For what Lucas lacks in storytelling and directing his actors, whoever coordinated the fights on this movie, you did a good job.
Absolutely.
Because, just... The door's open, and it's just Darth Maul. He's got his hood up. It's just him, and everybody's already like
getting out of there.
And even Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan probably were like, "Oh, y'all gotta go." So it's one of the best fights in Star Wars, in my opinion.
Oh my gosh, so good.
It's obviously coordinated. Like you can see, they take swipes at each other, and it's a lot of. But that's what you want in a fight like this.
Well, and I would argue. I've got all the arguments today.
Okay.
They show, I think what's even cooler about the prequels fights is, you see this in Empire Strikes Back, which is the best Star Wars movie ever made. Yeah. But I think the Force element for Jedis and Sith who are having sword battles is they're using the Force as they fight to kind of sense where the lightsaber is going to be.
We go through this long hallway fight, and then one of the best examples of show don't tell about the light and the dark side of the Force is when they run down this corridor, and all of a sudden there's these barriers there, and they're just stuck looking at each other.
Oh, I love that scene.
Qui-Gon just kneels down, retracts his lightsaber, kneels down,
patience,
and just meditates right there on the spot.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Meanwhile, Darth Maul is just
pure anxiety,
pacing back and forth.
Yep.
Like a lion that's about to rip the throat out of something.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's just a great visual example of light side, dark side.
Yes, the contrast. Brilliant.
And then they separate and they go back and then Obi-Wan gets stuck in there.
Yeah.
And then now it's just Qui-Gon going through And then I forgot to mention Darth Maul has a double-bladed lightsaber, but you've probably seen it.
Hope not. I hope so, if you haven't.
I think I had that toy as a kid.
Oh, it's so
I know I had the Qui-Gon one, but I think I had that one too.
I had the Qui-Gon lightsaber.
And then, so they just fight. And then he knocks him one good time. Like, he takes the handle of the blade. Knocks him. What? No, he blocks and then knocks.
Yep.
And then, right in the stomach. He's dead. Obi-Wan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so, Obi-Wan activated a little bit of rage in that moment.
Yeah. He's got some attachment if I've ever seen it.
Yeah. So it eventually ends with Darth Maul, and we'll wrap it up at this point. Darth Maul gets cut in half, falls down a shaft. You gave us one of the coolest characters in Star Wars, and then you killed him.
Killed him right there. I mean,
thank God for the Clone Wars.
Would you argue that they should have not had Count Dooku at all?
Yes.
And just kept Darth Maul?
Yes. Obi-Wan promises to train Anakin, and then it ends how just about every Star Wars has ended at this moment, in a huge ceremony where the Gungans get a glowing ball, and there's a medal ceremony. You were doing so well, George. And then Anakin does a little smirk, and then Natalie Portman's over there he's 9.
Yeah, he's 9.
And he's got his little Jedi braid.
Yeah, he's moving up in the world.
Yeah.
Oh, so much to talk about. This is good.
Final verdict at the end of this.
I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
I'm still at a 5. But that's what makes movies good.
Yes.
Is the discussion afterwards.
It's art.
Yeah.
It
art is subjective
in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. Well,
art is subjective. Well, that's another conversation.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that is the end of the very first episode of Second Take Movies. Will, how do you feel?
I feel great. It's I think we've accomplished a lot here. This is I would say an important topic.
Yeah. We've got
a lot of fun.
We've got a lot more conversation to go on. So you can catch the rest of those in the next 2 episodes, which are probably going to be up with this one. The first 3 episodes are probably going to be all available at the same time. So you can probably watch us descend into madness as we go on into the night. Please subscribe, leave a review.
Yes.
If you found this on accident, thank you for listening this far in.
Is it fate?
Maybe.
Maybe.
So we will see you next time on Second Take Movies.